As dusk faded over the expansive plains near Kupiansk, a tense atmosphere gripped the battlefield. Cold winds swept through withered wheat fields, carrying the acrid scent of gunpowder and scorched metal from prior clashes. Russian forces, after months of holding static positions in the area, launched a rare mechanized assault to seize the left bank of Kupiansk, a critical strategic point in eastern Ukraine. This move marked Russia's first attempt in nearly 3 months to recapture key areas along the Oskil River, aiming to establish a bridgehead for further advances into Kharkiv Oblast.
The assault, involving 2 T-72B3 tanks, 3 MTLB armored personnel carriers, and roughly 40 soldiers, represented Russia's initial effort to resume large-scale mechanized operations in the region. Though the formation was modest, it was one of the few mechanized attacks Russia conducted on the Eastern Front since the summer of 2025. However, Ukraine's meticulous preparation and fierce response turned the assault into a catastrophic failure, leaving behind charred tank wrecks and dozens of Russian soldiers killed or fleeing in disarray.
Russia planned the attack following what Moscow described as successful negotiations in Alaska. Though details of these talks remained largely undisclosed, they appeared to bolster confidence among Russian commanders, convincing them the time was ripe for a surprise offensive to regain the initiative at Kupiansk. This area, located in Kharkiv Oblast, has long been a strategic hotspot where Russian forces sought control to expand their buffer zone and pressure Ukrainian defenses. In the days leading up to the attack, Russian intelligence conducted reconnaissance along Kupiansk's left bank. Russian Orlan-10 unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, with an operational range of 75 miles, a maximum flight time of 16 hours, and high-resolution imaging capabilities, were deployed to map Ukrainian defensive positions. The imagery revealed several Ukrainian fortifications and checkpoints along the Oskil River, but detected no advanced air defense systems like the Buk M1 or S-300. Reconnaissance also identified potential approach routes through open fields, leading Russian commanders to believe the terrain would favor their mechanized units. This convinced them their forces could swiftly breach Ukrainian defenses with a rapid assault using tanks and armored vehicles. Russia's assault formation was carefully organized, though limited in scale. 2 T-72B3 tanks, each weighing 46 tons, were equipped with a 2A46M 125mm smoothbore cannon, capable of firing armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding Sabot APFSDS rounds at a muzzle velocity of 5,577 feet per second and an effective range of about 1.24 miles. These tanks featured the Sosna-U fire control system, enabling target acquisition in low-light conditions, and Contact 5 explosive reactive armor to mitigate damage from anti-tank weapons. These tanks were expected to spearhead the assault, paving the way for 3 MTLB armored personnel carriers, each armed with a PKT 7.62mm machine gun, with an effective range of 0.93 miles and capable of carrying 11 soldiers. The MTLB, with a top speed of 38 miles per hour on flat terrain, was designed to rapidly transport infantry across rough ground. But its thin armor, 0.28 to 0.55 inches, left it vulnerable to anti-tank weapons. Approximately 40 infantry soldiers, armed with AK-74M rifles, effective range of 0.31 miles, firing rate of 600 rounds per minute, and RGD-5 grenades, lethal radius of 16 feet, followed to secure positions after the tanks cleared the way. In support, Russia deployed several two S-3 Akatsiya 152mm self-propelled howitzers with a maximum range of 11.5 miles and a firing rate of 3 to 4 rounds per minute to provide long-range fire support. These howitzers used OF-440 high-explosive rounds with a lethal radius of 82 feet, supported by artillery reconnaissance teams to adjust fire. Russia's plan was to weaken Ukrainian fortifications with artillery barrages, then advance the mechanized force, leveraging speed and firepower to overwhelm defenses.
While Russia prepared, Ukrainian forces in Kupiansk were far from idle. The 429th Achilles Separate Drone Regiment, the 116th Separate Mechanized Brigade, and the 15th Kara Dag Brigade of the Operational Task Force received intelligence warnings of unusual Russian activity. Ukrainian Zala 421-16E reconnaissance drones with a 4-hour flight time, a 31-mile range, and optical and infrared cameras detected Russian armored vehicle movements in sparse forests about 9.3 miles east of Kupiansk. These images, transmitted in real time via encrypted channels to Ukrainian command, allowed commanders to identify the Russian formation and its approach direction, enabling rapid planning and response.
The Achilles Regiment, nicknamed the Armor Killers, was the linchpin of the defense. The unit operated dozens of first-person view FPV, each capable of speeds up to 62 miles per hour and carrying PG-7V anti-tank warheads able to penetrate 10.2 inches of armor. These drones, with a 6.2-mile range and 15-minute flight time, were controlled via encrypted radio signals to resist jamming. Operated remotely from concealed bunkers, they could precisely strike moving targets using onboard cameras.
Additionally, the 116th Mechanized Brigade deployed infantry teams equipped with RPG-7 rocket-propelled grenade launchers, effective range of 984 feet, penetrating 19.7 inches of armor, and Javelin guided missiles with an effective range of 1.55 miles and penetration exceeding 23.6 inches. The Javelin, with its infrared-guided fire and forget system, was highly effective against armored targets at long range. The 15th Kara Dag Brigade, in a supporting role, positioned D-30 122mm howitzers with a 9.6-mile range and a firing rate of 6 to 8 rounds per minute, ready to provide fire support. These guns used OF-462 high-explosive rounds with a 66-foot lethal radius, positioned 6.2 miles from the battlefield to avoid Russian counter-battery fire.
Commanders adopted a layered defense strategy. The first layer involved drone and radar reconnaissance to detect and track Russian movements. The N/TPQ-36 counter-battery radar, capable of detecting artillery fire and pinpointing its origin within a 15-mile radius, monitored Russian artillery activity. The second layer consisted of FPV drone teams tasked with striking armored vehicles as they approached. The third layer included infantry and artillery units ready to eliminate surviving forces if they breached the drone attacks. To counter Russian airstrikes or drones, Ukraine deployed the Strela-10 short-range air defense system, capable of engaging targets at altitudes up to 11,483 feet within a 3.1-mile radius. This system used 9 M37 missiles traveling at 1,800 feet per second, positioned on high ground near the Oskol River to protect key defensive areas. Fortifications, reinforced with sandbags and concrete, included bunkers 6.6 to 9.8 feet deep, built during prior defensive preparations to shield troops from intense Russian artillery fire. At 4 a.m., as darkness enveloped Kupiansk's outskirts, The roar of two T-72B3 tank engines shattered the silence. The Russian formation advanced from a sparse forest 6.2 miles from Kupiansk's left bank. The tanks, with Contact 5 reactive armor, designed to defeat armor-piercing rounds, moved cautiously over rough terrain, followed by 3 MTLB vehicles carrying infantry. In support, 2 S-3 Akatsiya howitzers opened fire from 7.5 miles away, launching high explosive rounds at suspected Ukrainian fortifications along the Oskol River. The 15-minute barrage, firing about 50 rounds, had limited effect, as Ukraine had anticipated the attack and repositioned key defenses based on Zala drone intelligence. Black smoke rose from impact sites, but most shells missed their targets. As the Russian formation reached 1.86 miles from the river, Ukrainian reconnaissance teams detected their movement via thermal imaging from Zala drones. The Achilles Regiment commander immediately ordered FPV drone teams into action. 4 drones, each carrying a PG-7V warhead, launched from a concealed position 1.24 miles from the battlefield. Drone operators in 3-person teams used handheld 7-inch displays for precise navigation. Flying at 164 feet to evade Russian radar, the drones, controlled via first-person view, moved at 50 miles per hour, weaving through fields and sparse trees to approach the Russian formation. The lead T-72B3 tank became the first target. An FPV drone struck its turret, where armor was thinnest, about 15.7 inches after Contact 5. The PG-7V warhead detonated, penetrating the armor and igniting the internal ammunition. A massive fireball erupted, accompanied by a shockwave that shook the area. The explosion, equivalent to 6.6 pounds of TNT, destroyed the turret and killed the 3-man crew. The second tank, 656 feet away, veered to avoid danger, but was too late. A second FPV drone, guided with precision, hit the tank's hull near the engine, destroying the drivetrain and immobilizing it. The crew attempted to escape, but was eliminated by Ukrainian snipers using SVD rifles with an effective range of 0.5 miles. Meanwhile, the 3 MTLB vehicles, with only 0.55 inches of frontal armor, accelerated toward the river. However, Achilles drone teams anticipated their path. A third drone dove at a 45-degree angle, striking the lead MTLB. The PG-7V warhead penetrated the roof, obliterating the troop compartment and killing most soldiers inside. The explosion sparked a fire that burned for over 10 minutes, hindering other vehicles' advance. A second MTLB was hit by another drone, with the warhead detonating at the tracks, immobilizing it. The third MTLB, attempting to retreat, was ambushed by a Ukrainian 116th Brigade team using a Javelin missile. The missile, guided by infrared from 0.93 miles, struck the vehicle's roof, turning it into a burning wreck. The Javelin's tandem warhead penetrated the armor and ignited the fuel compartment, destroying the vehicle in seconds. The Russian infantry, now without armored cover, descended into chaos. They sought cover in sparse trees or shallow ditches, but Ukrainian infantry, supported by D-30 howitzers, launched a final assault. The howitzers fired high-explosive rounds at 6 to 8 rounds per minute, raining shells on Russian positions. The barrages, guided by drone reconnaissance data, accurately targeted Russian infantry concentrations.
Ukrainian troops, using PKM machine guns, .62-mile effective range, 650 rounds per minute, and RGD-5 grenades, eliminated remaining Russian soldiers. Some Russians attempted radio contact for support, but Ukraine's Bukoval AD electronic warfare system jammed their signals, isolating them. Within 30 minutes, the entire Russian assault force was destroyed or fled in panic, leaving 5 burned-out armored vehicles and dozens of bodies on the battlefield. As the dust settled, Ukraine retained control of Kupiansk's left bank. Russia's meticulously planned but poorly coordinated attack, misjudging Ukraine's defensive strength, ended in disaster. The 2 T-72B3 tanks and 3 MTLB vehicles were completely destroyed, with wreckage burning for hours. Debris, including shattered turrets and armor fragments, scattered dozens of yards, symbolized Russia's defeat. About 30 of the 40 Russian soldiers were killed, with survivors fleeing into nearby forests, unable to mount another attack. Those who escaped faced rugged terrain and the risk of capture by Ukrainian patrols. Following the victory, Ukraine released drone footage of the battle on August 16, 2025. Defense Express published the video in an article titled, "Russia's Rare Armored Assault Near Kupiansk Ends in Defeat." The 3-minute clip, filmed from 656 feet, clearly showed tank and vehicle explosions and Russian infantry fleeing in panic. The battle was not only a tactical defeat for Russia, but also exposed flaws in their approach. Their reliance on traditional armored vehicles, vulnerable to FPV drone and anti-tank missile strikes, was thoroughly exploited by Ukraine. The Achilles Regiment's precise use of FPV drones demonstrated how modern technology can shift battlefield dynamics, enabling smaller forces to defeat larger mechanized units. The Kupiansk engagement vividly showcased Ukraine's resilience and innovation in the ongoing conflict. By combining FPV drone technology, advanced anti-tank missiles, and layered defense tactics, Ukraine turned Russia's ambitious mechanized assault into a rout. The T-72 tanks and MTLB vehicles, once symbols of Russian military might, were reduced to smoldering wrecks on Ukrainian fields. The battle underscored the critical role of real-time reconnaissance and electronic warfare in neutralizing traditional mechanized forces. This engagement not only solidified Ukraine's hold on Kupiansk, but also sent a clear message. In modern warfare, technology and coordination can defeat even the most formidable armored formations. Moreover, this defeat may force Russia to reassess its reliance on outdated armored vehicles in the face of increasingly dominant systems like FPV drones and Javelin missiles.